Hello, Internet. This is Whispering Whim, bringing you yet another grocery haul today. So let's go ahead and dive right in. First up, we have some good old tissues. And I got the kind with aloe and vitamin E, just a little softer on my nose. I don't know if it really rubs off all that much vitamin E, and it could be a placebo effect, but they feel nicer. So I get that kind. Then let's see here. We have my shame item. So this is some fragrance pellets for the clothes washer, aka the laundry machine. I don't always want my clothes scented. Well, I don't want all cloth scented, if that makes any sense. So our detergent is unscented, and then when I want a little extra fragrance, I use something like this. Now, I called it my little shame item, though, because I had put it in my basket, and for some reason I had put it on the seat in the basket. And while I was shopping, I got hot, and I took off my coat, and this guy was hiding underneath my coat. And I didn't see it until I had left the store. And I'm one of those people, I'm always so torn. Like, whether or not to walk back in and, pay for it or to go home. When I was younger, just when I was first learning to drive, so I must have been 16 or 17, I had finally gotten my license. And I was at a grocery store, ironically enough. But I had gotten two items. Well, yeah, maybe more than two, but there were two items where one was very expensive. It was like this little stuffed animal shaped purse. It was a giraffe. I don't know why the grocery store had giraffe purses, but it did. And I had also gotten hair ties. And the cashier that day rung the hair ties twice and didn't charge me for the purse. And I didn't discover that until I'd gotten to the car. I noticed it because something triggered in my head. I was like, that purchase should have been a lot more expensive than it was. And yeah, I found the mistake, and I actually walked back in and asked the cashier to refund the hair tie, the extra hair tie, and charge me for the purse. Like Good Samaritan kind of a thing. At least I thought I was being a Good Samaritan. But the reason why it's a very I feel conflicted about the story is I told my dad about it later, and my dad's kind of, I wouldn't say he's a bad guy, but he is out for himself in a lot of situations, right? And he told me that I was an idiot, that I should have taken my almost free purse and ran. And I did that a lot as a kid. So now that I'm adult, because he kept telling me I was so stupid every time I do something like that, I'm like, well, what do I do? I almost went back into the store and paid for this, but I ended up coming home with it unpaid. So you guys should tell me. You tell me. It's a little late now, but I could, next time I go shopping in the store, ask the cashier to ring me up for it. Put another one in my basket and then just tell her to keep it. But that seems awkward. I don't know. What would you guys do? Okay, moving on. Back to groceries. We have some white beans, and this one is the low sodium one. And as you know, I use the white beans in my white bean chili. Go figure. And I like to get low sodium beans when I think about it. Not because I'm trying to be low salt, although I should. I really should. But because if there's not as much canned salt in here, in the can, right, then I can add more of the Better Than Bouillon, that paste that I really like that's basically bouillon cubes but fresher or something. But that adds a lot of salt to the dish when you use those. So If the beans are less salty, I could add more of the bouillon. That's the moral of that story. Next up, we've got some good old tortillas. I've been on a kick for having like burrito type things for my lunches or breakfast. Breakfast burritos and wraps and bean burritos and all of the Eatos. I'm not sure. I'm just on a kick. I do that though. I'm very cyclical with what I like to eat. So I eat a whole bunch of something for a bit, and then I eat a whole bunch of something else for the next bit. Anyway, next up is some beef broth. I've probably mentioned this to you before, but I'll go ahead and recap. My family, my family, for holidays, my mom would always make brown rice, but it was not genetically brown rice. It wasn't brown rice, unhulled rice from the store. No, it was white rice that you add so much broth into it that it turns brown. It has beef broth, butter, and scallions or green onions, whichever you prefer. And it's kind of like a poor man's risotto because you toast the rice and then you make it, you toast it in the butter and blah, blah, blah. So super favorite holiday dish. And it's the one thing that I miss the most because I spend most of my holidays, pretty much all my holidays, with my guy's family instead of my own. And I miss brown rice, so I've started forcing it upon them. I say force, but they've been kind and say they like my brown rice. But the last couple of batches I've made were kind of not ideal. Trying to recreate your mama's recipe kind of a thing. She gave me the recipe, but I'm doing something different. So I decided I am going to make a tiny batch in between or like this month to like practice and see what I'm doing wrong. Maybe I'll do it once a month if I can't figure it out. Although that's a lot of rice. And rice by itself isn't terrible, but it's white rice, so there's no fiber, well, very little fiber. And the butter. There's a lot of butter in that recipe. I should not be eating that too often, especially, oh my gosh, okay, I'm gabbing a bit today, but that's all right because the groceries are a bit on the thin side. I am normally one of those people who don't bother with New Year's resolutions because I'm kind of the mindset that if you can't commit to it in like June or March or something, are you really gonna is January that much more special? So I don't normally do New Year's resolutions or think too hard about them. But this year, I guess it was last year technically, I decided I was going to actually write down New Year's resolutions and put them up and do some things about it because I want to get more healthy. So we're going to eat better and exercise and do all the things that I say I'm going to do, but I'm really going to do them this time. You can just wait and see. Anyway, we've got some tuna, and there's going to be more floating around. I've been on a big tuna kit, and I have good news. The mysterious kitty, who still doesn't have a collar, but maybe really isn't a stray, has reappeared. Just once, but came right back up to me. And I've been enjoying the tuna so much that I didn't have any kitty tuna. Didn't have any left over for the cat, right? And I was like, oh no. Because I don't know if this thing is a stray or not, but it's very thin. It's not like bony thin, but it's thin. So I was like on my phone quickly, like, what else can I feed this cat? And you can just cook up ground beef and feed them that, apparently. And so that's what I did. And the cat was like, this seems sus, right? This is not my tuna. And I put a little bit in my hand and I'm like, here, kitty, kitty. And she, I assume it's a girl. I haven't actually, checked down under. Um, but I put a little bit on my hand and she ate it from my hand. And after a couple of pieces, because she was watching me pull it out of the bowl, she's like, all right, I'm just going to eat this ground beef. And she ate it all up, like, licking the bowl to death and everything. So that's a good thing to have in my back pocket now, because the odds of me having ground beef in the house is much higher than the odds of me usually having tuna, unless I'm on one of these tuna binges. But it might actually just behoove of me to get like those little tubes of it's like cat wet food, but it's more of a treat. Maybe I should just have some, like keep them under my kitchen sink or something. Okay, moving on, back to groceries. We have some saltines, and these are the fresh stacks, so that means they're the shorter packs, which are useful because I don't go through them very fast. And oh my goodness, I need to organize my cupboard here. That's no good. Following that, we've got some bean with bacon soup. Predictably, I ate my backup one already from last month. And we got some split pea and ham with bacon. This store brand is pretty good, but for some reason they only have a few flavors in the store brand. So had to go with the more expensive Campbell's for the split pea. And I keep meaning to make my own split pea, but the price of ham hock right now, it flabbergasts me. It's like almost the same price as, maybe a lower end cut, but a piece of steak. And I'm like, that used to be a throwaway meat. Not really thrown away, but Next up, we have not one, but 2 packets of what I call sourdough flavored yeast. They call it instant sourdough. Make real sourdough without a starter. This does make my white bread recipe in a bread maker taste superior to just unflavored yeast, but it does not turn it into sourdough. In my culinary opinion, it has sourdough flavor, but it doesn't have the same texture or crunch to it, and it's not quite as sour, I would say, as an actual sourdough. But that being said, I love it. It makes a very tasty white bread. And I had to restock on the yeast because, so when I make a loaf, right, it's usually a bit much for me and my guy to go through all in one go. And so my typical routine is that I'll turn the second half of the loaf into croutons, because once the bread starts to dry out, that's actually the ideal situation for making croutons in. Yeah? And homemade croutons, man, when you can control every little aspect of garlic and oregano and butter, can be very, very tasty. So New Year's Eve party, I got asked to bring a salad, and I'm like, okay, then I'll bring my homemade croutons. And I was actually pretty extra. I made one of the dressings by hand, and the other 2 were heavily modified dressings. But anyways, I had told one of the hostess that I love to eat them like potato chips. They're just so tasty, right? And she's like, oh my gosh, I love just eating croutons. And I had just brought like the whole container of croutons, right? And so I left it out on the table after we had had dinner. And I was like, well, if you want to snack on some of those, go for it. Her and one of the other guests ended up like going through, goodness, it had to have been at least half a pound of croutons. Which normally is fine. My guy and I equally don't go through croutons as quickly as bread, but croutons last longer. So it's fine. Except for my mother-in-law wanted to have a family game day, and I being me, I was like, oh, what do you want me to bring? And she's like, will you bring a salad? And so I had that moment of like, I just served all of my croutons to this other group. What do? I don't need any bread right now. And yes, the ending of this story is that I made a whole loaf of bread just to turn it into croutons. That is silly. That is a silly thing to do, and I shouldn't have, but I did. All right, moving on. Our next item is some good old ketchup. This is the Simply ketchup, so no artificial sweeteners in there. I really hate artificial sweeteners. I don't care which one it is, whether it's natural or chemical or otherwise, they have a taste. And I will not stand down from this. Okay. Last item in that other bag was some good old toilet cleaner. Not very glamorous, but you know, you gotta clean the bathroom every once in a while. Okay, so next up we have avocados. Now I feel like this is a gamble. I have not had good luck buying avocados from Winco or Save Mart. But for some reason, the avocados I get at Sam's Club are always fantastic. So I don't know. Part of the problem is the Sam's Club has these like big, like restaurant style avocados, whereas those grocery stores always have the bags of the smaller ones. I don't know if the small ones are just harder to keep, but I took a risk. I bought a whole bag of them because I really have been wanting some avocado, and I just have not made it over to Sam's Club. That whole one car thing still gets me sometimes. Okay. We have some strawberry donuts. It's for my guy's breakfast, his weekend breakfast. And we have some rosemary and olive oil Triscuit. I bought some provolone a little while back for steak sandwiches. And we haven't been really going through it. So I got some Triscuits and some salami so that we'd have a better excuse to eat the provolone. And then next in our bag here is some fajita seasoning mix. Yay! This is a new item. I've never bought fajita seasoning mix before. And I tried to Google online how it was different from taco seasoning, because when I looked at recipes, it looked like all of the same ingredients. And I think basically it's just a slightly different proportion of taco seasoning ingredients plus sugar. That's the only real difference. And I still have my super jumbo. Oh, it's really hiding back there. I'm not going to dig that out. You guys remember, like, I don't know, it might have been a year ago where I got the super bulk pack of taco seasoning. A+ idea. The stuff still works great and has saved me at least $5 by buying it in bulk. Okay, anyways, I'm getting derailed. So, why do I have fajita seasoning? Am I going to make fajitas? No, I am not. I have been doing a meal kit, and I won't advertise for them. They're not sponsoring this video, so. But suffice to say, one of their recipes used this stuff, and it was kind of it wasn't fajitas. You just kind of like sprinkled it on the chicken, like a whole chicken breast, and then you also put it in a crema sauce. And let me tell you, that dish was really tasty. And the whole point of me doing the meal delivery kit thing is that even though it's a little more expensive than grocery shopping, maybe a lot more expensive, it's like the cost of eating fast food these days. So take that however you will, because fast food is ridiculously expensive. But yeah, what I told my guy when I proposed the idea of me signing up for this subscription service, because he did not have a high opinion of them. And I was like, I want to feel inspired. I want to make some new dishes. And one of them was this, they called it Peruvian chicken. And you make it, the fajita mix. And then they had sort of It was basically Spanish rice. They didn't call it that. Gotta be careful though. One thing I have noticed about at least this particular company, I haven't tried any other meal kits, is that sometimes they give you these things to make life easier, like concentrated pork ramen stock or something like that, right? And part of me is like, yay, life is easier. And part of me is like, boo, you can't go out and buy concentrated pork ramen stock anywhere that I know. So some of the recipes are easy to do later on after you've tried them. And some of them you either keep ordering them from the service or you move on with life. All right. Here we have a big old thing of onions. I'm always surprised by how much onions I go through. And then here's the other portion of those tuna fish packets that I got, like I said, in a tuna fish mood lately. And then we have some good old marinara sauce. I was watching a YouTube video with a bunch of chefs who are taste testing commercially prepared tomato sauce, and this one ranked really low on their list, and I was like, oh, bum, bum, bum. But then they tasted like ragu and stuff, which is a very common brand that you can find around me, and they were like, oh, this is even more crap, and I'm like, okay. So mine's still mid-tier. You're just restaurant chefs who have high opinions about things, which, I have high opinions about things too, but have I ever made a marinara sauce from scratch? No. I've made a pizza sauce from scratch, which you would think those are the same thing, but they're not. Typically, pizza sauce, you don't cook the tomatoes. So it's not simmering on the stovetop all day. Usually. Take that with a grain of salt. That was just my understanding. But yeah, no, I don't think I have made a marinara from scratch. I probably would have high opinions if I did. So let's not start. Next up, ironically enough, we have some tomatoes. But those are for the Spanish rice that I will be serving with my knockoff Peruvian chicken that uses fajita mix. I don't know. It was really tasty though. I'll explain the other tasty part about it when we get to the cooler bag, because there was another component that new for me, very tasty, very exciting. But we'll get there when we get there. So try to stay awake. I don't know why I felt evil about that. Okay. We have some vodka. The Winco that I have been shopping at, sometimes this has this out and sometimes doesn't. But when they do, it is the cheapest price in town. Like less than $12 for this whole container. And you're probably thinking to yourself, well, that looks like a plastic jug and it's probably not that good. It is actually a surprisingly good vodka for the price point. Like, you would have to probably be paying close to $35 a bottle to get a vodka, a mid to top shelf vodka that tastes better than this one. It's really surprising. But they don't always have it out. So I get it when I see it. Then we've got a random nub of ginger. I'm not positive what I'll use this for yet, but I was just feeling inspired to get it. Sometimes you have to go with the flow on these kinds of things. And then, last but not least, this is funny, I got a can of refried beans. So last grocery haul, if you don't remember, I actually picked up a bag of small red beans because I've made refried beans with red beans before and I have really enjoyed it. So I bought this roughly a month ago. Problem is I'm of the mindset that you should pre-soak your beans because it removes some of the things that cause digestive issues if you pre-soak them, because then you can rinse that out in the water. I keep not remembering to set the beans up before a day where it made sense for me to make refried beans. Like, I would think about it when I wanted to eat them, not when not the day before I wanted to eat them. So, hope springs eternal that I will use those. But I've decided to have some backup regular old refried beans in the pantry just in case, because I keep being sad that I can't make my bean burritos, and I got some fresh pack of tortillas, so I gotta make my bean burritos. And with that, we're already on to our cooler bag. Getting the meal delivery kit, we don't do it every week, but it's still often enough that my grocery shopping has actually been impacted by it, so I'm glad that at least some of the grocery budget can go towards this extravagance that is the meal kit. Because I'll tell you, it was a hard sell to get my guy on board for that thing. He's liking it now, kind of ish. He likes that I enjoy it. Anyways, moving on. Mexican four cheese, so just for my many burritos, bean burritos, breakfast burritos. Some good old chicken. I normally, if I'm in other stores, buy big bulk packs of chicken. But I had one really bad experience with a bulk pack from Winco. I think someone must have just left it out and someone else must have returned it to the cooler section without realizing that it had already been at room temperature for too long or something. But, yeah, when you have to throw out, like, how big were those? I think they were like, see here, if this is an 18-ounce pack, which is a little over a pound, then I probably had gotten like 5 or 6 pounds of chicken, because it's cheaper that way, that was all rancid. And I could not tell by looking at it on the outside of the package. It hadn't like gotten puffy, the color wasn't off, but as soon as I opened it when I got home, man, oh boy. So I don't buy a lot of chicken when I go to Winco. I usually wait because the Save Mart near me, it's a closer grocery store than the Winco is, typically much more expensive. They've been having like this ongoing promotion where you can get 5 packs of meat for $5, and granted, it's not their whole meat selection, but 5 for $5, or 5 of them at $5, so you're spending $25 minimum, actually brings the meat to a relatively good price point for me. So I usually get them on sale at that place when I need to go there, but I just didn't need to this time. Moving on, we've got a big old honkin' zucchini here. There was not a straight one in the whole bunch. Usually I try to look for straight ones because they're a little easier to cut, but everybody had a bit of a curve to them today. And then we have some limes, which brings us to the second thing that was really good about that meal delivery kit that I made, is that they had you pickle. I think culinarily speaking, you would call it a quick pickle because it doesn't preserve the vegetable. But they'd have you pickle some jalapeno in lime juice. You basically like lime juice and some sugar, and I think they had more of that fajita seasoning or something ridiculous. And then you throw it in the microwave for like, I don't know, it's like 30 seconds or something. And then you let it just sort of sit in the lime juice, which is acidic, so that's the right avenue for pickling. While you're making the rest of the meal, and by the time you get to the end of it, it's not like a pickle, like a jarred pickle, but it is really tasty. And bonus points, the lime juice that now has like capsaicin in it because, the cut jalapeno released some of its essence, right? You get to use that liquid in the crema sauce. So it's like lime and lime zest and jalapeno flavor and sour cream, and it's very good. It's tasty. Okay. Here we have those jalapenos that will become jalapeno pickles. A big old bag of broccoli. And then here's some of that salami I had mentioned previously, so that we have more reasons to eat up that provolone cheese before it goes bad. And then I got not one, but 2 packs of pepper bacon. So there's a reason why I was like, F it, I'm going to get the bacon now. Or get 2 of them. I had done another grocery trip actually just last week. And I thought I was going to do a video off of that trip. But that trip was ill-fortuned in many ways. But one of the ways it was ill-fortuned is that I had wrote a list. It was a wonderful list. It was going beautifully up until I got to bacon. And for whatever reason, I decided to not look at the list again because I had it memorized at that point, and I didn't get bacon. Well, this particular grocery trip had been on the first Friday of the month, which is a notoriously bad day to go grocery shopping, especially at Winco. Since it is a low income or lower price, I should say, grocery store, it attracts low income people, which is fine. I don't mind shopping with, whoever. But at the first of the month is when a lot of those benefits, whether it's like SNAP or Social Security or whatever, click over. And so a lot of people shop the first week of the month. Well, additionally, Friday is a typical payday. So a lot of people shop on Fridays. So I had realized that I'd forgotten the bacon after I had already spent about, let's say, 20 minutes in line. And I'm like, I'm not getting out of this line. I'll just stop at a more bougie, expensive store and get the bacon because they probably won't have these lines. So got out of there finally. Took forever. I then went to Save Mart, which has had pepper bacon in the past. This is our preferred bacon, pepper bacon. Center cut, thick slice. Like, brand isn't as essential, but pepper, thick slice, super essential. So I go to Save Mart and they have no pepper bacon in like the general pickup area, like in the coolers. They do have some behind the meat counter, but there's no one manning the meat counter. No one. And I debated making a fuss, see if I could get someone, but that store usually doesn't have a lot of staff. So I decided I would just go up to the even more expensive store that is also nearby. And I get to that store and they don't have any form of pepper bacon. Like, they barely even have bacon, in my opinion. Because it was, it's a very, like bougie, expensive, upstate. Anyways, there was no pepper bacon. And I had it up to here. So I was carefully reading the ingredients on the bacons they did have, because one of the reasons why I like pepper bacon is that it doesn't have a heavy sugar, maple, whatever taste. I don't like sweet bacon for breakfast. It's okay as a snack though. But I also don't like really smoky flavors. I don't want to like taste the applewood. And pepper bacon, because the main flavor that is advertised as pepper, they usually tone down those other 2 elements. So I finally settle on a pack of bacon. And I kid you not, it was $10 for 10 ounces. $1 per ounce. And I was like, do I really want to buy this? And I did, because I was not going to a fourth store on a Friday night when I was still kind of hoping I would do the video. Like I had this whole plan to do the video like right after shopping, and it's going to be efficient and great. And no, that did not happen. So when I was at Winco and I was looking at the bacon, this is enough to get us through usually 2 weeks, right? It depends. I make a lot of bacon related dishes. And I was like, do I just get one? I probably only need one. But what if I run out? So I bought 2 of them. Okay. That was a dramatic retelling of my one Friday night. Our last little cooler item here is some more of those overly processed deli meats that I enjoy for reasons unknown even to me. But yeah, here they are. And so that brings us to our freezer bag. It's a little small, but at least there's a few more items to go through before we call it quits for the night. First up are those stuffed hash browns. That are such a guilty pleasure. Such a guilty pleasure. Reason one is that they're not very nutritionally dense. 17 grams of fat, 6 of those are saturated fat, 25 grams of carbohydrate, and only 1 of those is dietary fiber. And like the biggest positive you could walk away from this box is that it does have 1.6 milligrams of iron. So 8% of your daily recommended iron. So not a health food in the slightest, right? But the other thing is that they're like almost $7 for 1 box. So there's 4 in there, so it's a little less than $2 per unit. I know that might not sound like a lot to people who are always eating out, but I tend to be very frugal, so I'm rarely spending a whole $2 on my breakfasts. Breakfast I don't know why I always like playing with plurals. But yeah, it's just overpriced, and I'll eat that whole box like probably this week. Because I tell myself to ration them, but I'm not a rationing kind of a gal. I eat the tasty things. It's not good. It's not good. All right. Next up, some pepper stir fry. A little slick there. But this will be probably for my breakfast, actually. So on the weekends, I make bacon, and my guy and I enjoy the bacon. And then my guy gets something sweet, like donuts. And I saute some kind of vegetable in a little bit of the leftover bacon grease. I've sauteed peppers and onions. I've sauteed cauliflower, zucchini, stir-fry mix. What else? I mean, I think that's probably it. I think I stir-fried a red onion or a red pepper once, but they get too sweet, in my opinion, when you saute them. So, anyways, next up, we have some corn. Just good old classic corn. That's a solid side dish right there. And last but not least, some good old ground beef. Yeah, that's what I have in my hand. Ground beef. Gonna make some spaghetti here in the near future. So now, what is the last thing I do in my videos? Yep, it is shout out time. And I'm not going to shout out a whole bunch of names this time. I'm going to just do one. We're going to make this shout out a little extra special because I thought the comment, or the commenter, as you will, was a little extra special too. So, Her name is Allie. I won't say the last name in case her Instagram account is private or something. I never can keep track of who's who. But on Christmas morning, she said, "Hey, Melissa, Merry Christmas. I just wanted to let you know how much I appreciate you. Thanks so much for continuing to do ASMR videos even though you're not feeling them anymore. I've had sleep issues for a long time, and I'm so happy I found your channel last year. You've done wonders for me and my mental health. I just want you to know you are changing lives with your ASMR, especially mine. Thanks again so much. P.S. Oh, it's in the message. P.S. I'm Allison Comley on YouTube." Yeah, those of you who have been with me for a while have known that this started out as a hobby, and now it's like this weird, I wouldn't say it's an obligation because that's a bit too strong, but a thing that I keep up because the people involved in it are wonderful. I've had viewers, listeners who, maybe buy my products or they send me lovely comments, follow me on Instagram. The fact that people keep doing that and we get those interactions, right? That's what keeps me doing this. Because yes, there are days where I'm like, I'm overdue for a grocery haul video. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? And then there's also situations like I have been saving forever for my birthday, which is back in October. I got a box of Japanese snacks and I was saving them because I thought I'd do a Christmas special. I usually do one of those. I didn't get to it this year, obviously. But I haven't touched those snacks. And then for Christmas, one of my sister-in-laws got me another box. I think it was maybe Thailand snacks. I can't remember. It was not Japanese snacks. But somewhere from the East. And I was like, oh no, now I have 2 boxes. Do I just eat them? Or do I try to hold out hope that I will find the extra time for a second video in 1 month? Oh, the labor. No. Video making's a weird thing. Like once I get the cameras and the lights set up and everything, it's great. It's like talking to a good old friend, right? But getting to that point is the issue. But yeah, you guys are wonderful. Thank you for listening, and I hope you have a wonderful night. Nighty night.